Y'all ever have one of those moments where everything you thought you knew just falls apart? Like, for real though, when the people you birthed, raised, and sacrificed for it turn into straight up strangers? Well, let me tell you my story, 'cause what happened to me after my husband's funeral? Child, you ain't ready for this. My name is Glory Washington. Born Gloria Mae Jenkins back in 1957, became Gloria Washington when I married my Robert in 1980, and I stayed that woman. Proud, faithful, hard-working for 45 beautiful years, until 3 weeks ago, the day after we laid my husband to rest in the Georgia red clay. I'm 68 years old now, y'all. These hands of mine, they remember everything. They remember how to braid my grandbaby's hair on Sunday mornings before church. They remember kneading the dough for that sourdough bread my son Marcus used to beg for every weekend. They remember the feel of my Robert's calloused palms when we'd sit on the porch after a long day working our pecan farm. 20 acres of the most beautiful pecan trees you ever did see, right there in rural Georgia, about 2 hours south of Atlanta. I'm telling you all this so you understand. Before everything fell apart, before my world got turned upside down and inside out, I was just a mama, a wife, a woman who believed she'd raised her children right, a woman who thought her family had her back the way she'd always had theirs. Lord, was I wrong. My Robert, pancreatic cancer, took him from me in 14 months. That's the silent killer, y'all. The one that don't give you no warnings, no second chances, just enough time to get your affairs in order, but not enough time to really say goodbye. Not enough time to prepare for what comes after. At first, we kept it between us. Just me and Robert holding that terrible secret close to our chest like a burden too heavy to share. Our kids, Marcus and Keisha, they were busy with their own lives. Marcus was down in Atlanta, working as a financial advisor for some big firm, making 6 figures and missing every family gathering that mattered. Always had an excuse, always too busy climbing that corporate ladder. And Keisha, baby girl, was bouncing from city to city, Miami, Charlotte, Savannah, chasing one revolutionary wellness business idea after another. Each one needed just one more investment from Daddy. Each one folded the minute real work was required. But she was our daughter, you know? And Robert, he had a soft spot for his baby girl. Couldn't say no to save his life. They don't need to carry this weight yet, Robert told me one night, his voice thick with morphine, staring up at our bedroom ceiling like he could see through it straight to heaven. Let them live their lives a little longer without this shadow hanging over them. I nodded because I loved that man with everything in me. But deep down, I knew our children better than he did. Or maybe I just saw them clearer. Maybe love had made Robert blind to what they'd become. When they finally came home to our farmhouse, the house where they grew up, where Robert and I had built something from nothing, turning neglected pecan trees into Washington family pecans, one of the most respected organic farms in the whole state, they didn't come bearing comfort. They came with questions about the will. Mama, I'm just trying to be practical here, Marcus said, his voice dripping with that condescending tone he perfected after his first big bonus check. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the same table where we celebrated birthdays and graduations and victories. Robert was upstairs sleeping, doped up on pain meds. And that's when Marcus decided it was time to talk business. The medical bills gotta be stacking up. Y'all thought about selling the house? Running this farm alone can't be easy for you, not at your age. At my age, like 68 men, I was ready for a nursing home and a rocking chair. Now, let me tell you something about my son. Marcus left this small Georgia town the second he turned 18, said rural life was suffocating, said he needed to breathe. Never mind that this suffocating land paid for his education at Morehouse. Never mind that these pecan trees put food on his table, clothes on his back, and gas in that first car he drove. He'd come home maybe twice a year if we were lucky. Always stayed at a hotel in town instead of his childhood bedroom, said the country air irritated his sinuses. But suddenly, in the final weeks of his father's life, Marcus developed a deep, burning interest in the family business he'd been ashamed of his whole adult life. Keisha rolled in 3 days later with 6 suitcases and the scent of expensive failure clinging to her designer clothes. 5 wellness companies in 7 years. Each one started with daddy's money. Each one abandoned when the work got hard or the bills came due. But she hugged Robert with real tears that night, slept in a chair beside his bed the night before he died. And that's why I still struggle with what came after. That's why forgiveness feels impossible. The funeral was small. Robert would have wanted it that way. We buried him on a hill overlooking the pecan groves, where the spring blossoms were just starting to bloom. The Bradford pear trees were showing off, all white and beautiful against that blue Georgia sky. I stood between my children as they lowered my husband into the red earth. Marcus's arms stiff around my shoulders, trying to look like the dutiful son. Keisha crying openly into a monogrammed handkerchief I'd never seen before, probably bought special for the occasion. "He's at peace now," the pastor said. I wondered if that was true, or if that's just what folks say when somebody dies after suffering for so long. Robert and I weren't deeply religious. We believed in God, sure, went to church most Sundays to keep up appearances. But we put our faith in hard work, in the land, in building something that would outlast us. Pastor Williams knew that. He spent most of the eulogy talking about Robert's love for farming, his dedication to organic practices, how he'd helped the Henderson family save their dairy farm during the recession, how he'd always hired local, always paid fair wages, always tithed to the church and the food bank. Nobody mentioned how he'd built our business from nothing, how he'd raised 2 children who apparently inherited none of his values, none of his character. What I remember most about that day was the silence after, the way our farmhouse echoed with it when folks came by with casseroles and condolences, speaking in hushed tones about Robert's goodness, his integrity, how he'd been a pillar of the community, how he'd always been there when somebody needed help. Nobody mentioned that his own children couldn't be bothered to visit more than twice a year while he was alive. I made up the guest rooms, I told Marcus and Keisha that evening after the last visitor left. The house felt too big, too empty without Robert in it. Thought we could go through some of your daddy's things tomorrow, together. "About that, Mama," Marcus said, setting down his whiskey glass, Robert's whiskey, from Robert's cabinet, with a precision that reminded me painfully of his father. "Keisha and I have been talking, and we think it's best if we handle things quickly. We both need to get back to our lives." Handle things. Like his father's death was a business transaction. The estate, the house, the business. Marcus and I need to figure out next steps. Next steps. I'd expected grief from my children. Maybe some memories shared, some tears shed, some recognition that we'd just buried the man who gave them everything. Instead, I got a board meeting. Marcus opened his laptop right there at the dining room table, the table Robert had built with his own hands from wood salvaged from an old barn. The same table where we'd celebrated these children's birthdays, their graduations, where we'd sent them off into the world with prayers and hope. "Dad talked to me about this last year," Marcus said, still not meeting my highs. Corporate speak, clinical, cold. He was worried about how you'd manage with the mortgage. The business needs modernization, investment. This house is too much for someone your age. Someone my age. There it was again. "I've been running this farm alongside your father for 40 years, I said slowly, tasting the bitterness of each word. 40 years, Marcus, since before you were born. "And you did wonderfully, Mama," Lisa cooed, in that voice she used when she was trying to sell overpriced vitamins to desperate women at her pop-up wellness booths. That fake sweet tone that made my skin crawl. "But it's time to think about your future. A nice senior living community would give you friends, activities, no more worries." "I have friends. I have activities." My voice sounded strange even to my own ears. "This is my home." "It's all of our home," Marcus corrected. his tone sharpening. And Dad left the business to Keisha and I in the will. He wanted us to take care of you, but he knew the farm needed younger leadership. Younger leadership. Like the 40 years Robert and I spent building this business from scratch meant nothing. Like my knowledge of every tree on this property, every season's patterns, every worker's family situation was worthless compared to Marcus's MBA and Keisha's string of failures. "Show me the will," I said. He slid a document across the table, but it wasn't on our family lawyer's letterhead. It was printed on Marcus's company stationery. And Robert's signature looked wrong. Too perfect, too steady for a man whose hands had shaken with pain for months. "You had him sign this while he was on morphine." The rage rising in me was something primal, something I hadn't felt since I chased a fox away from our chicken coop with a broom when the kids were little. That mama bear instinct that makes you bare your teeth and fight. He was lucid, Marcus insisted, but his eyes shifted away, guilty. He wanted us to make a fresh start with the business. There's an investor interested in the land. Investor? The word tasted like poison. "A development company," Keisha explained, and her eyes lit up with the prospect of money, the same way they'd lit up with every failed business venture. "They're paying $7 million, Mama. We can all start over. You'd get a nice condo in Atlanta, close to Marcus, near good hospitals, shopping, real restaurants, not just the Piggly Wiggly." Start over? Like the life Robert and I built meant nothing. Like Washington family pecans, our legacy, our sustainable practices, our refusal to sell to big corporations that would exploit our workers, and our annual donation of 10% of our harvest to local food banks was something old and worthless compared to cookie-cutter condos for rich white folks from Atlanta looking for weekend getaways. "Your father would never sell this land for development," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Never, and I haven't signed anything." "You don't have to," Marcus explained, in that practiced patience tone, the one that made me want to slap him. "The business was in Dad's name, the house too. Georgia estate law means—" "I know what Georgia estate law means. I'm not some ignorant countrywoman, Marcus. I went to college too, remember? Before you were born, before I chose to build this farm with your father instead of chasing some corporate dream." The words hung in the air between us, sharp and true. "We're meeting with the developers Monday," Keisha said, like I hadn't spoken, like my opinion didn't matter. "The lawyer too. We can get this all sorted quickly." I looked at my children, really looked at them, and saw strangers. Greedy strangers wearing the faces of the babies I nursed, the toddlers I taught to walk, the teenagers I'd driven to football practice and dance recitals. "Get out," I said quietly. Marcus laughed, actually laughed. "Mama, this is still legally—" I said get out. My voice rose, bouncing off the walls of the house Robert built. "Both of you, get your things and get out of my house. Now." Keisha's eyes went wide. "You can't be serious. Mama, we're just trying to help." "Help?" The word exploded out of me. "You waited until your father was too weak to fight back, forged his signature on a fake will, and tried to sell everything he built for a quick payday, and you call that help?" "The will is legitimate," Marcus said coldly, his mask slipping. There was the real him, the calculating businessman who saw his own mother as an obstacle to profit. "Then you guess we'll let the lawyers sort it out," I said. "But tonight, you leave, both of you, and don't come back until I say you can." They left. No hugs goodbye, no apologies, just angry glances and muttered curses as they packed their designer luggage and loaded their luxury cars. I watched from the porch as their taillights disappeared down the long driveway, past the pecan trees Robert had planted the year Marcus was born. The house felt different then. Emptier, but also cleaner somehow. like getting rid of an infection. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table with Robert's Bible, the one his grandmother had given him, with family names written in the front cover going back 6 generations. All of us farmers, all of us builders. And I prayed. Not for forgiveness, not for peace. I prayed for strength to do what needed to be done, because I knew something my children didn't know, something Robert had made sure of before he died, when he was still strong enough to drive into town without me. The real will was locked in our safe, and it told a very different story. The next morning, I woke with purpose. Marcus and Keisha thought they'd waltz into some lawyer's office and take everything, but I'd already made my appointment with Thomas Bennett, our real family attorney. I dressed in my Sunday best and drove to downtown Athens. Got there 30 minutes early. Early is on time is late, like Robert taught me. Miss Patricia, the secretary, gave me a knowing look. "Mr. Bennett's expecting you, Gloria." Thomas stood when I answered. "I'm so sorry about Robert." "Thank you." I pulled out Marcus's fake will. "They say Robert left them everything." Thomas studied it, jaw tightening. "This is a forgery. Robert's signature's wrong, the notary stamp is fake." "I know. I wanted you to confirm it on record." He smiled. "What do you need?" "Be at Marcus's meeting today. Walk in with the real will. I want to watch his face when he realizes he's caught." "This will get ugly." "It's already ugly. They forged their dying father's signature." Thomas pulled out the real will. "Robert updated this 4 months before he died. Everything goes to you, 100%. Marcus and Keisha get personal items only. But if they try to manipulate you, they forfeit even that." He knew they'd try. He knew, and he protected me. At 11, I walked into the developer's office. Glass and chrome, the kind Robert would have hated. Marcus and Keisha were already there, looking confident. "Mama," Marcus said with fake warmth, "I'm glad you came. Let's get this over with." Chase Pemberton, a young white developer, led us to a conference room, pulled up renderings on the screen. "Washington Estates," he announced, "my land, turned into 60 luxury townhomes, starting at $850,000 each. We're offering $7 million. They'd already named it, already designed it, already erased everything Robert and I built. We've even found senior living facilities for you in Atlanta." The door opened. Thomas Bennett walked in, briefcase in hand. Marcus went white. "What are you doing here?" "I'm Mrs. Washington's attorney." Chase looked confused. "I thought we were all in an agreement." "We're not." Thomas set his briefcase down hard. He pulled out documents with proper seals. "This," Thomas held up Marcus's papers, "is a forgery. And this is Robert Washington's actual will, properly executed, notarized, filed with Georgia." Marcus's face drained of color. "That's impossible," he stammered. "You forged your father's signature, attempted to defraud your mother. That's elder abuse and fraud, both felonies." Chase jumped up. "Platinum Ground had no knowledge." "Save it." Thomas turned to my children. "The real will leaves everything to Gloria Washington, and because you tried to manipulate her, you forfeited your personal bequests too. Everything stays with your mother." "We're his children," Keisha said, shaking. "We have rights." "You had rights until you tried to steal from me. Your father knew. He protected me." Marcus's face twisted with rage. "This isn't over." "It's over," Thomas said, "unless you want criminal charges." I stood up, looked at my children one last time. "Don't come back to the farm. Don't call. Don't write. You're not welcome." I walked out, leaving them behind. The drive home felt lighter, like cutting chains. Thomas followed in his car. We sat on my porch, looking at pecan groves. "They'll try to fight this," he said. "Let them try." Thomas pulled out an envelope. "Robert left this for you." Robert's handwriting. "For my Gloria, my strength, my love." After Thomas left, I opened it alone. "Everything we built is yours. Don't let them take it. Be strong. Be the woman I married. Yours forever, Robert." I cried then. Not for my children, for Robert, who'd loved me enough to protect me from beyond the grave. That evening, my phone started buzzing. Marcus, Keisha, over and over. I blocked both numbers. Then I called Thomas. What happens next? "They have 30 days to contest. But with that forgery, they won't win. We could press charges if you want." "Not yet. But keep that option open." "Done. Get some rest, Gloria. You won." But had I? I'd kept the farm, yes, but I'd lost my children. Or maybe I'd lost them years ago and was just now seeing it clearly. I made myself dinner: fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, Robert's favorites. Ate on my porch as the sun set over our land. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Mama, please, we can talk about this. We're family." Family. The word felt hollow now. I deleted the message. Tomorrow, I'd start planning the farm's future without them. Tonight, I'd just sit with the peace of knowing I'd won. The war wasn't over, but the first battle was mine. The next 2 weeks were quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that settles when family becomes strangers. Thomas called with updates. Marcus had hired an Atlanta lawyer, trying to claim Robert wasn't mentally sound when he made the real will. "It won't work," Thomas said. "We have doctor testimony. Robert was sharp until the end." But knowing I'd win didn't make waiting easier. Every morning I'd wake alone, make coffee, walk through a house full of Robert's things: his glasses on the table, his boots by the door, his flannel shirt still hanging on the chair. I couldn't move any of it yet. 3 weeks after the meeting, a car came up the drive. My heart jumped. Maybe Marcus or Keisha coming to apologize. But it was a stranger. Young black woman, professional, carrying a briefcase. "Mrs. Washington, I'm Detective Angela Price, Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Can we talk?" GBI? My stomach dropped. "What's this about?" "The forged will, and other things about your son and Platinum Ground Development." I made tea and listened as she laid out a story that chilled my blood. Platinum Ground specialized in targeting elderly black landowners, manipulating them into selling below market value, sometimes legally, sometimes through fraud. "We've been investigating 6 months," Detective Price said. "Your case caught our attention, but we found a pattern. At least 15 other families across Georgia in 3 years." Marcus knew? His phone records showed dozens of calls with Chase Pemberton over the past year. "Several while your husband was dying. We think they targeted you specifically, assuming you'd be vulnerable." Vulnerable. Like I couldn't think for myself. "What happens now?" "We're building a case. Marcus's involvement makes him accessory to fraud, possibly elder abuse. We need your testimony." "Will he go to jail?" She looked at me with sympathy. "Probably not. First offense means probation, fines, community service. But his career? Done. Financial companies don't employ criminals." I should have felt satisfaction, but I just felt tired. I gave her my statement, every detail about Marcus presenting that fake will, his promises, his lies. When she left, she shook my hand. "You're brave, Mrs. Washington. Many would have given up." My husband didn't raise me to quit. That afternoon, I did something I'd been avoiding. I called Jasmine, Marcus's wife. "Gloria?" Cautious. "Hey, baby, how are you?" Long pause. I'm so sorry. I didn't know what Marcus was planning. He told me you were selling willingly. I believed her. Jasmine was good people, always had been. Where is he now? At work. We're not talking much. Her voice cracked. The firm's letting him go once this goes public. His career is over, Gloria. He did this to himself. I know, but he's still my husband, father of my children. I'm watching him destroy himself. My grandchildren. 2 beautiful babies I'd barely seen. How are the kids? They miss you. Keep asking about Grandma and Grandpa's farm. Tell them Grandpa's in heaven and Grandma loves them. They're welcome anytime, with or without their father. Really? Hope in her voice. Really? This fight is between me and Marcus, not you, not those babies. We made plans for her to bring the kids next weekend, a bridge I wouldn't burn. But Marcus and Keisha, those bridges were ash. That evening, Thomas called again. The GBI contacted me. This is bigger than we thought. I know. Detective Price came today. There's more. Keisha's in trouble too. Those wellness companies, fronts for pyramid schemes. She targeted elderly women in retirement communities, took their money, promised miracles, then disappeared. My daughter, a con artist. How long have you known? Got the report this afternoon. GBI found connections between her and Marcus. They plan to split the farm money. $7 million, divided 2 ways. The price they'd put on their mother's home. What do I do? Nothing. Let the law handle it. You focus on healing. Healing. Like some betrayals could heal. That night, I sat with Robert's Bible, the family tree in front, 6 generations of Washingtons, farmers, builders, people who believed in hard work and legacy. I took my pen and drew a line through Marcus's name, through Keisha's name, not erasing them, still part of history, but separated now, cut off. I added a note. Some trees grow strong branches, some grow rot. We prune what we must to save the tree. Robert would have understood. He'd seen the rot before I had. That's why he'd protected me. Tomorrow, the GBI would move. Tomorrow, Marcus and Keisha would face consequences. Tomorrow, the world would know what my children had become. But tonight, I rocked in Robert's chair and watched stars come out over the pecan grove. The same stars that watched over 6 generations. The same stars that would watch long after I was gone. And I made a decision. This farm wouldn't die with me. Washington family pecans would continue, just not through Marcus and Keisha. I'd find another way, another legacy. For Robert, for the generations before us, for the future we dreamed of. The fight wasn't over. I was standing, and I wasn't done yet. The news broke Thursday morning. I was making breakfast when my phone exploded. Text messages, calls, voicemails from numbers I didn't recognize, even church friends I hadn't heard from in months. I ignored most of them, but curiosity won. I searched Platinum Ground Development, Georgia. Front page of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Georgia Development Company under investigation for elder fraud. Platinum Ground's pattern of targeting elderly Black landowners. 15 families scammed. Marcus's name right there as a person of interest. Chase Pemberton arrested on fraud charges. And buried in the 3rd paragraph, Keisha Thompson under investigation for running fraudulent wellness schemes targeting senior citizens. My children. Their names in the newspaper like common criminals. I set the phone down, hands shaking, made myself sit before my legs gave out. This was what I wanted, wasn't it? Justice, consequences, the world knowing what they'd done. So why did I feel like I'd been hollowed out? The phone rang again. My sister Patricia, calling from Florida. Gloria! Oh my God, I just saw the news. Are you okay? Why didn't you tell me? I'm fine, Pat. Fine? Your children are under investigation for fraud. This is everywhere. I gave her the short version. The funeral, the fake will, Thomas, the GBI investigation. She listened in shocked silence. Those ungrateful... Her voice shook with rage. After everything you and Robert did for them, after all those sacrifices, it's done now. The law's handling it. Are you safe there alone? Want me to come up? I can be there by tomorrow. No, I'm okay. Really. Just need time to process. We talked for a few more minutes. She made me promise to call if I needed anything. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet kitchen and let the weight of it all settle over me. My phone buzzed. Text from Thomas. Saw the news. You okay? Call if you need anything. Then Jasmine. Gloria, I'm so sorry. The kids are asking questions. Can I still bring them this weekend? I typed back, yes. They need their grandmother. This isn't about them. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, and after this morning, I was tempted to ignore it. But something made me answer. Reverend Mitchell, from church. Sweet older man who'd known Robert and me for 30 years. Gloria, I hope I'm not intruding. Saw the news and wanted to check on you. Come in, Reverend. I made coffee. We sat in the living room. He didn't ask questions, didn't push, just sat there in comfortable silence until I was ready to talk. Everyone at church is talking about it, aren't they? Some are, but most folks are just concerned about you. You've been through so much. Losing Robert, and now this. I don't know if I can face them. All those people knowing what my children did. Reverend Mitchell leaned forward. Gloria, you didn't do anything wrong. Your children made their choices. Their sins are not yours to carry. Then why does it feel like I failed them somehow? Like I should have seen this coming, should have raised them better. You and Robert raised them the best you could. You taught them right from wrong, gave them everything they needed. But at some point, children become adults and make their own choices. You can't control that. Robert saw it, I said quietly. He knew what they were becoming. That's why he changed the will. He was protecting me, even then. Robert was a wise man. He loved you fiercely. We sat for a while longer. Before he left, Reverend Mitchell prayed with me, not just for Marcus and Keisha to be forgiven, but for my strength, my peace, my healing. After he left, I felt a little lighter. Not much, but enough. That afternoon, Thomas called with an update. Marcus's firm officially terminated him this morning. The GBI is moving forward with charges: fraud, elder abuse, conspiracy. Keisha's facing similar charges, plus running that pyramid scheme. What kind of time are they looking at? If convicted, Marcus could get 2 to 5 years, but probably suspended sentence with probation. Keisha may be the same. But here's the thing. They're both broke now. Legal fees are eating through whatever savings they had. And with criminal records, their careers are done. Their careers. The thing Marcus had built his whole identity around. The thing Keisha had chased through 5 failed businesses. Gone. There's something else, Thomas continued. Jasmine filed for divorce this morning. I closed my eyes. Oh no. She cited irreconcilable differences and fraud. She's asking for full custody of the kids and the house. wants a clean break. I couldn't blame her. Jasmine was a good woman who had been dragged into her husband's mess. She deserved better. What about Keisha? Anyone standing by her? No husband, no partner. Her friends have all distanced themselves. She's alone in this. Alone. The word echoed in my head. My daughter was alone, facing criminal charges, her life falling apart. And I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to help. Just emptiness where mother love used to be. Gloria? Thomas's voice pulled me back. Yeah, just thinking. Listen, I know this is hard, but you did the right thing. They would have destroyed you if you hadn't fought back. I know. The preliminary hearing is in 3 weeks. You'll need to testify. I'll be there. After we hung up, I walked out to the pecan grove. The trees were fuller now, leaves bright green in the afternoon sun. In a few months, we'd start harvest, the cycle continuing like it had for generations. I found myself at Robert's grave. The headstone was simple, like he had wanted, just his name, dates, and a line from his favorite Bible verse. The righteous flourish like the palm tree and grow like a cedar in Lebanon. I sat in the grass beside him, not caring about the dirt on my dress. The news broke today. Everyone knows now. About Marcus and Keisha, about platinum ground, all of it. Jasmine's divorcing Marcus, taking the kids. Your grandchildren are going to grow up with their father's criminal record. And Keisha's alone. No one left to bail her out this time. I pulled up a handful of grass and let it fall through my fingers. A cardinal landed on a nearby branch, brilliant red against the green leaves. Robert always said cardinals were visitors from heaven. Everyone keeps telling me I did the right thing, that you'd be proud of me for fighting back. But it doesn't feel like winning, baby. It just feels like losing everything in a different way. I stayed there until the sun started to set, talking to Wagner, telling him everything I couldn't say to anyone else. When I finally walked back to the house, my phone had more messages. More concerned friends, more curious acquaintances, more reporters asking for comments. I deleted them all except one, from Jasmine. The kids want to see you more than ever now. They don't understand what's happening, but they know they miss their grandma. We'll be there Saturday morning if that's still okay. I typed back, yes, that's perfect. I can't wait to see them. At least something good was coming from all this. I'd get my grandchildren back, even if I'd lost my children. That night I made Robert's favorite meal, fried catfish, collard greens, cornbread, and ate alone at the kitchen table. After dinner, I sat on the porch with sweet tea and watched lightning bugs appear in the twilight. The farm was quiet, except for crickets and frogs. Peaceful, like it was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. I thought about Robert's note in the Bible. Some trees grow strong branches, some grow rot. Marcus and Keisha had rotted, but maybe Jasmine and those babies were the strong branches. Maybe the Washington legacy would continue through them instead. Different than Robert and I planned, but still something worth fighting for. Tomorrow, I'd start preparing for their visit. Clean the guest rooms, stock the kitchen with their favorite snacks, plan activities to keep two energetic kids entertained. Tomorrow, I'd be grandma again. Not the mother of criminals, not the widow who'd been betrayed. Just grandma. And maybe that would be enough. Saturday morning came with sunshine and the sound of a car coming up the drive. I'd been up since dawn, cleaning, cooking, making sure everything was perfect for my grandbabies. Made pancakes from scratch. the kind with chocolate chips that Robert used to make on special occasions. Set the table with the good plates, the ones with little flowers on the edges. Through the kitchen window, I watched Jasmine's car pull up, two little heads in the back seat bouncing with excitement. I walked out onto the porch, wiping my hands on my apron, and felt my heart squeeze tight. 7-year-old Robert Jr., we call him RJ, jumped out first, his little face lighting up when he saw me. "Grandma!" 4-year-old Aaliyah was right behind him, her braids bouncing as she ran. I dropped to my knees on the porch steps and opened my arms wide. They crashed into me like tiny hurricanes, all warm hugs and sticky kisses and laughter. "Grandma, we missed you so much," RJ said, squeezing my neck. "I missed you more, baby, so much more." Jasmine stood by the car, watching us with tears in her eyes. She looked tired, exhausted really. Dark circles under her eyes, shoulders slumped with weight she shouldn't have to carry. I stood up, keeping one hand on each grandchild's head. "Come on inside, all of you. Breakfast is ready." The kids ran ahead and Jasmine walked slowly up to me. "Gloria, I don't," I said gently. "You don't owe me any explanations or apologies. You're family. You'll always be family." She broke then, tears spilling over. I pulled her into a hug, this daughter-in-law who'd always been more daughter than in-law. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what he was planning. I know, baby. I know. Come on. Let's get some food in you." Breakfast was loud and chaotic in the best way. RJ told me about his baseball team, talking a mile a minute about home runs and strikes. Aaliyah showed me her drawings, each one more colorful than the last. "This one's Grandpa," she said, pointing to a stick figure with a big smile. "In heaven with the angels." My throat tightened. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Mama says Grandpa's watching over us. Is that true?" "Yes, baby. He's always watching. And he loves you so much." After breakfast, I sent the kids outside to play in the pecan grove. Told them to be careful, stay where I could see them from the porch. Jasmine and I sat at the kitchen table with fresh coffee. "How bad is it?" I asked. She stared into her cup. "Pretty bad. Marcus is facing felony charges. The lawyers say best case scenario, he gets probation and community service. Worst case, prison time." "And you filed for divorce." "I had to, Gloria. I can't, I won't raise my children around someone who would do what he did. Trying to steal from his own mother?" She shook her head. "That's not the man I married. Or maybe it is, and I was just too blind to see it." "You weren't blind. People change. Money changes people." "The firm fired him. Our savings are gone, all going to legal fees. I had to move back in with my mama in Atlanta, started picking up extra shifts at the hospital." "What about the kids?" "They know something is wrong, but they don't understand what. RJ keeps asking when Daddy's coming home. I don't know what to tell him." I reached across the table, took her hand. "You tell him the truth. Age appropriate, but the truth. That Daddy made some bad choices and has to face the consequences. But that you love him, I love him, and none of this is his fault." "He wants to see them. His lawyer sent a letter asking for visitation." "What do you want?" "I don't know." Her voice cracked. "Part of me wants to protect them from him, but part of me knows they need their father, even if he's a criminal. He's not a criminal yet. Innocent until proven guilty. Remember?" She looked at me sharply. "You're defending him after what he tried to do to you." "No, I'm just saying he's still their father. And whatever else he is, whatever he's done, those babies shouldn't have to pay for it." We sat in silence for a moment, watching through the window as RJ pushed Aaliyah on the old tire swing Robert had hung years ago. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine said quietly. "Anything." "Do you hate them, Marcus and Keisha, after everything they did?" I thought about that. Really thought about it. "No," I said finally. "I don't hate them. Hate takes energy, and I don't have any left to give them. I'm just done. They made their choices. Now they live with the consequences. You're stronger than me. I'm so angry I can barely breathe sometimes. You're allowed to be angry. You should be angry. He betrayed you too. He destroyed our family for money he never even got. $7 million that was never his to begin with." She laughed bitterly. "You know what's funny? We were doing fine. Good jobs, nice apartment, healthy kids. We didn't need more. But it was never enough for Marcus. Never enough." I knew that feeling. The hollow ache of realizing the person you loved was chasing something you could never give them. Something that didn't even exist. "Stay here," I said suddenly. "What?" "You and the kids. Move here, to the farm." Jasmine stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "Gloria, I can't." "Why not? This house is too big for just me. There's plenty of room. The kids would love it. Space to run, fresh air, good schools nearby. You could cut back on your shifts, spend more time with them. I can't just move in and let you take care of us." "You wouldn't be. We'd take care of each other." And I paused, choosing my words carefully. "I need family around me, Jasmine. Real family. People who actually love me instead of just wanting what I have." Her eyes filled with tears again. "You mean that?" "I do. This farm needs children's laughter again. It needs life. And I need you three. Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need, but know the offer stands. Always." We spent the rest of the day like a real family. I taught RJ how to check the pecan trees for pests, showed him which ones would be ready for harvest first. Aaliyah helped me in the garden, her little hands carefully planting seeds. Jasmine sat on the porch, actually smiling for the first time since she'd arrived. At dinner, fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, RJ asked the question I'd been dreading. "Grandma, why doesn't Daddy come visit anymore?" The table went quiet. Jasmine looked at me, helpless. I set down my fork. "Your daddy made some mistakes, baby. Some big ones. And when grown-ups make big mistakes, they have to face the consequences." "What kind of mistakes?" "The kind that hurt people. The kind that broke trust." "Did he hurt you, Grandma?" "Yes, baby, he did." RJ's little face scrunched up, trying to understand. "But you always taught us to forgive. You said that's what Jesus does." Out of the mouths of babes, this 7-year-old cutting right to the heart of it. "Forgiveness is complicated, RJ. Sometimes we can forgive someone, but still need to protect ourselves from them. Does that make sense?" "Not really." I looked at Jasmine, who nodded for me to continue. "Your daddy tried to take away this farm, this house, everything your grandpa and I built. And that hurt me so much that I had to tell him he couldn't come around anymore, to keep myself safe." "But you let us come." "Because you didn't hurt me. You and your sister and your mama, you're the good parts of your daddy, the parts that are still loving and kind. And I'll never turn away from that." RJ thought about this for a long moment. "Okay, but I still miss him." "I know you do, and that's okay. You're allowed to miss him and still know what he did was wrong." After the kids were in bed, I'd made up the guest rooms with fresh sheets, found some of Marcus's old toys in the attic. Jasmine and I sat on the porch in the darkness. "Thank you," she said quietly. For today, for everything. Nothing to thank me for. Yes, there is. You could have turned us away, blamed me for not seeing what Marcus was, but you didn't. You're not responsible for his choices, and those babies are innocent in all of this. We rocked in silence, listening to crickets and frogs. I'm going to take your offer, Jasmine said suddenly. If it still stands, we'll move here, start over. Relief flooded through me. Really? Really? Those kids need stability. They need family. And honestly, so do I. My mama's apartment is cramped and she works nights. I'm stretched so thin trying to manage everything. Then it's settled. We'll get you moved in as soon as you're ready. Gloria, her voice was soft in the darkness. Why are you doing this? After what Marcus did? Because you're not Marcus, and those babies deserve better than to suffer for their father's sins. And because Robert would want me to. He'd want his grandchildren here, on this land, learning what it means to build something that lasts. He was a good man. The best. And we're going to make sure RJ and Aaliyah grow up knowing that, knowing what real strength looks like, what real integrity means. The Washington legacy would continue, just not the way Robert and I had planned. But maybe that was okay. Maybe sometimes the best legacies are the ones we don't plan for.
3 weeks later, I walked into the courthouse for the preliminary hearing. The building was all marble and echoes, the kind of place that made you whisper even when you didn't need to. Thomas met me outside the courtroom, briefcase in hand, looking sharp in his suit. "You ready for this?" he asked. "As ready as I'll ever be. Remember what we talked about. Answer the questions clearly. Stick to the facts. Don't let anyone rattle you." "I won't." He squeezed my shoulder. "You're going to do great, Gloria." Inside the courtroom, I saw Marcus for the first time since that day at the developer's office. He sat at the defense table with his lawyer, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's rent. But he looked different. Thinner. Older, like the weight of what he'd done was finally catching up to him. Our eyes met for just a second. I don't know what he saw in my face, but whatever it was, made him look away first. Keisha was there too, sitting in the back row. She looked worse than Marcus. Hair not quite right, clothes wrinkled, makeup trying to hide exhaustion but failing. When she saw me, she started to stand, like she was going to come over. I turned away before she could. The prosecutor, a sharp-looking black woman named Andrea Williams, called me to the stand. I swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Sat down in that witness box and looked out at the courtroom full of strangers watching me. "Mrs. Washington," Miss Williams began, her voice kind but professional, "can you tell us what happened the day after your husband's funeral?" I took a breath and told them everything. How Marcus and Keisha had shown up with that fake will, how they tried to convince me to sell the farm, how they'd already had meetings with developers, already planned out how to spend money that wasn't theirs. Marcus's lawyer objected a few times, but the judge overruled him each time. "And when did you first suspect the will was forged?" Miss Williams asked. "The second I saw it. My husband's signature was wrong. Too steady. Robert's hands shook from pain for months before he died. He couldn't have signed anything that neatly." "But you didn't say anything at the time?" "No. I wanted proof. I wanted everything documented before I made any accusations." "Smart woman," the judge muttered, then looked embarrassed. "Strike that from the record." Miss Williams smiled slightly. "Mrs. Washington, did your children know about your husband's real will?" "No. Robert kept it private. Only told our lawyer, Thomas Bennett. He wanted to protect me, and he was right to."
Marcus's lawyer stood up for cross-examination. He was young, probably thought he could intimidate an old woman. Mrs. Washington, isn't it true that you and your son had disagreements about how to run the farm? No. We had no disagreements because Marcus never showed any interest in running the farm. He left home at 18 and barely came back. But he was concerned about your ability to manage the property at your age. My age? I leaned forward. I'm 68 years old, and I've been running that farm for 40 years. I know every tree, every season, every worker by name. What does Marcus know? How to wear expensive suits and lie to his own mother? The courtroom went dead silent. Even the judge looked like he was trying not to smile. Mrs. Washington, the lawyer tried again, isn't it possible that your son was genuinely trying to help you? By forging his dying father's signature, by trying to steal my home, by plotting with developers before the body was even cold. I shook my head. That's not help. That's theft. No further questions, the lawyer said quickly, sitting down. Marcus wouldn't look at me, just stared at the table like it was the most interesting thing he'd ever seen. After my testimony, Thomas testified, then the handwriting expert who'd analyzed the fake will, then Detective Price from the GBI, laying out the whole investigation into Platinum Ground and Keisha's pyramid schemes.
By the end of the day, it was clear which way this was going. The judge set a trial date for 2 months out, said there was more than enough evidence to proceed with charges. Marcus and Keisha were both released on their own recognitions, but had to surrender their passports. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones, people shouting questions. Mrs. Washington, how does it feel to testify against your own children? Do you think they'll go to prison? Any comments on the Platinum Ground investigation? Thomas shielded me, got me to his car, but not before I heard one reporter say to another, "That's cold, testifying against your own kids like that." Cold. That word stuck with me the whole drive back to the farm. Was I cold? Or was I just done being warm to people who tried to freeze me out of my own life? When I got home, Jasmine was in the kitchen making dinner. The kids were doing homework at the table. They'd enrolled in the local school the week before, already settling into life on the farm. "How'd it go?" Jasmine asked quietly. "It went. They set a trial date." "Did you see him?" "Yeah, I saw him." She didn't ask more, just pulled me into a hug while RJ and Alea looked up from their worksheets. "You okay, Grandma?" RJ asked. "I'm okay, baby. Just tired." "Want to see my spelling test? I got 100. "Of course I do." That's what I needed. Not reporters asking invasive questions, not lawyers picking apart my life, not the cold marble of courtrooms. Just my grandson's spelling test and my granddaughter's drawings and the sound of someone cooking in my kitchen who actually cared if I ate. That night, after the kids were in bed, Jasmine and I sat on the porch like we'd gotten into the habit of doing. "Marcus's lawyer called me today," she said. "What did he want?" "Wants me to testify, as a character witness. Says it'll help show the judge that Marcus is a good father, a good husband, that he just made a mistake." "What did you sell him?" "That I think about it. But I won't do it, Gloria. I can't stand up there and lie about what kind of man he became. He's still their father." "I know. And if he goes to prison, I'll take the kids to visit. I won't keep them from him. But I won't pretend he's something he's not." We rocked in silence for a while. "You think I'm a bad person?" I asked suddenly. "For testifying against my own son?" Jasmine looked at me sharply. "What? No. Why would you even ask that? One of the reporters called me cold, and maybe she's right. What kind of mother?" "Stop." Jasmine's voice was firm. "You're not cold. You're strong. There's a difference.
Marcus tried to steal from you. He forged documents, he committed crimes, and you're holding him accountable. That's not cold. That's justice. Still feels like I failed somewhere. You didn't fail. He did. He had every advantage. Loving parents, good education, opportunities most people never get, and he threw it all away for greed. That's on him, not you. I wanted to believe her, wanted to believe that I'd done the right thing, that the hollow ache in my chest would eventually fade. But sitting there in the darkness, listening to crickets and frogs, I couldn't help wondering if there was a moment I'd missed, some warning sign I'd ignored, some conversation I should have had that might have changed everything. You can't think like that, Jasmine said, reading my mind. Trust me, I've been down that road. Spent weeks wondering if I'd noticed something, said something different, been a better wife, maybe Marcus wouldn't have done what he did. But that's not how it works. People make choices, and we can't control those choices, no matter how much we love them. When'd you get so wise? Therapy, she laughed. Started going after I filed for divorce. Best decision I ever made. Maybe I should try that. You should. Reverend Mitchell is great, but sometimes you need someone who's not connected to your church, your community, your history, someone who just listens. We sat for a while longer, then went inside. I checked on the kids, both sleeping soundly, RJ with a baseball in one hand, Alea with one of her drawings clutched to her chest. My grandchildren. Safe, loved, going up on land that their great-great-grandparents had worked, learning what it meant to build something real, something lasting. Maybe Marcus and Keisha were lost. Maybe I couldn't save them from the consequences of their choices, but I could save RJ and Alea. I could give them what their father had thrown away. Integrity, roots, a legacy worth more than money. That had to count for something. That had to be enough.
6 months later, I stood in the same courtroom for sentencing. Marcus pled guilty to fraud and attempted elder abuse. 3 years probation, 500 hours community service, full restitution. No jail time, but a permanent record. The judge, an older black woman with steel gray hair, looked down at him. Mr. Washington, your parents built something honest. You threw it away for greed. I'm going along with this plea deal because you have young children, but violate probation once, you serve maximum sentence. Clear? Yes, Your Honor. What you did to your mother breaks families forever. You're getting a second chance. Don't waste it. Outside, Marcus caught up with us. Mama, please, can we talk? I stopped, looked at this stranger. What do you want? I'm sorry. For everything. You're sorry you got caught. That's not true. I've thought about everything. I became someone Dad would have been ashamed of. Your father was ashamed. That's why he cut you out. Marcus flinched. I have to live with that. Yes, you do. Can I see the kids? I looked at Jasmine. She nodded. That's between you and Jasmine, but you and me, we're done. Mama, please. No, some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals cut too deep. I walked away, kept walking. Thomas drove me home in silence. You okay? No, but I will be. Inside, RJ and Aaliyah were laughing. Grandma, come see what I made. The weight lifted a little. That evening, I sat with Robert's Bible, looked at the line through Marcus and Keisha's names. Then I added 2 new ones. Robert James Washington Jr., born 2018. Aaliyah Grace Washington, born 2021. The legacy would continue, just not through their father. My phone buzzed. Keisha. Mama, I'm in rehab, getting help. Don't expect forgiveness.
Just wanted you to know I'm trying. I typed back, I'm glad. Keep trying. Not forgiveness, but not coldness either. Maybe that was enough. 3 months later, I stood in the pecan grove with RJ and Aaliyah, teaching them to harvest. See, be gentle. Too hard damages the tree. Like this? Perfect, baby. Jasmine came out with sweet tea. We sat under Robert's favorite tree. The hospital offered me a permanent position, better hours, pay, benefits. That's wonderful. I said yes, we're staying for good. Baby, this is your home now. We ate lunch, watching the kids play. This was what Robert and I had dreamed of. It just looked different than we planned. A year later, I got a letter from Marcus. Dear Mama, I'm completing community service at a youth center. Made me think about my childhood. I had everything. Threw it away for money. I was wrong. I see RJ and Aaliyah once a month now. They're good kids. Better than I deserve. Not asking forgiveness, but wanting you to know I finally understand what I lost. Trying to be the man Dad raised me to be. Even if it's too late. Marcus. I read it 3 times, cried, put it in a drawer. Maybe someday I'd respond, but not today. 2 years after Robert's death, I stood at his grave with RJ and Aaliyah. I made baseball team, Grandpa. Pitcher, just like you. I learned my times tables all the way to 12. Your grandpa would be so proud. Grandma, do you think Daddy will ever really come back? I don't know, baby. Maybe, but you've got me and your mama and this farm. You're a Washington. That means integrity, hard work, building something that lasts. Like these trees? Exactly like these trees. We walked back toward the house, toward home. The farm stretched around us, acres of pecan trees, healthy and strong. This was the legacy. Not money, but family, the real kind that chose to stay. Marcus and Keisha wanted to bulldoze this for quick cash, but they didn't understand what Robert knew. Some things are worth more than money. Some legacies are measured in love, in land, in lessons passed down. And some betrayals clear away rot and let new growth begin. I was Gloria Washington, widow, grandmother, farmer, betrayed, but not broken, building a new legacy with the family I had left. And that was enough. Epilogue. If you're watching this, you've heard my story. Maybe you think I was too harsh. Maybe you think I should have forgiven. Or maybe you understand that protecting yourself isn't cruel, it's survival. Marcus and Keisha made their choices. I made mine. I chose the farm. I chose my grandchildren. I chose to let go and embrace the family that remained. Was it easy? No. Do I still grieve? Every day. But grief and strength can exist together. So if you're facing betrayal, know this. You don't owe anyone your peace, not even family. Some bridges are meant to burn. Some trees need pruning. That's my truth. Drop a comment. Would you have forgiven or chosen justice? Hit subscribe for more real stories about family, betrayal, and strength. Remember, some people will test your loyalty by how much you let them disrespect you. Don't let them. You're worth more. God bless.